My name is Robert Chen. I am 78 years old, and until 6 months ago, I believed I had disappeared from the world. Not died, just disappeared.
I taught mathematics for 42 years. I could solve equations that made young minds spin. I built bridges with numbers, created certainty from chaos. But I could not solve the equation of my own irrelevance.
My wife, Susan, died 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. 4 months from diagnosis to goodbye.
We had 2 children. Daniel, our son, is a cardiologist in San Francisco. Sarah, our daughter, works in finance in Boston. Both successful, both busy, both gone.
After Susan died, the house became too big. Every room echoed. I would set the table for 2, then remember. I would call her name at night, then remember. The remembering hurt more than the forgetting.
Daniel called once a month, always rushed. "Dad, how are you?" Before I could answer, he was already talking about his schedule, his surgeries, his important life.
I learned to answer quickly. I'm fine. 2 words. That's all the space I had.
Sarah texted. Short messages. Thinking of you, Dad. Heart emoji. Send. I stared at those heart emojis. I wondered if she knew that a symbol is not the same as presence.
I started keeping a journal. I wrote down each time they contacted me. October, 3 calls, 7 texts. November, 2 calls, 4 texts. December, 1 call, 9 texts, mostly holiday greetings. I was becoming a statistic in my own children's lives. One Tuesday morning, I fell in the bathroom. My hip. The pain was sharp, immediate. I lay on the cold tile for 6 hours before I could crawl to the phone.
I called Daniel first. Voicemail. I called Sarah. Voicemail. I called 911.
The hospital kept me for 4 days. Hip fracture. Minor, they said. I would recover. I called my children from the hospital bed. Daniel said he would try to visit next month. Sarah said she would send money for a home care nurse. Neither came. I was discharged on a Friday afternoon. A nurse wheeled me to the entrance. She asked, "Is someone picking you up?" I looked at the parking lot. Rain was falling. Cars came and went. None stopped for me. "Yes," I lied. "They're just running late." She waited with me for 20 minutes. Then her shift ended. She squeezed my shoulder gently. "Take care, Mr. Chen." I took a taxi home. The driver had to help me to the door. I gave him a large tip. He hesitated, then said, "Sir, are you okay here alone?" I smiled. "I'm fine." That word again. Fine. The house was dark, cold. I had forgotten to leave lights on because I had not expected to be gone 4 days. I sat in my recliner, still wearing my coat, and I wept. Not because of the pain in my hip, but because I realized something terrible. I could have died in that hospital, and my children would have found out days later. When did I become so easy to forget? Winter came. My hip healed slowly. I stopped calling my children. I wanted to see how long it would take them to notice. Daniel called on Christmas. Dad, sorry I haven't called. Things have been crazy. How are you? I said, I fell, broke my hip, spent 4 days in the hospital.
Silence. Then, what? When? Why didn't you tell me? I did. I left a voicemail. More silence. Dad, I must have missed it. I'm so sorry. Are you okay now? I'm fine. He said he would visit soon. He didn't.
Sarah sent a Christmas card. Inside was a check for $500 and a note. For anything you need, Dad. Love you. I put the check in a drawer. I didn't cash it. Money is not love. Money is guilt with a $sign. January was the hardest month. I stopped going to the senior center. I stopped answering the phone. I ate 1 meal a day, sometimes nothing. I wasn't suicidal. I was just waiting for something to matter again. One morning, there was a knock on my door. A young woman stood there, maybe 30, holding a basket of groceries. She had kind eyes and a bright smile.
Mr. Chen, my name is Maria. I'm from Community Connections. We're a neighborhood support group. Your neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, was worried she hadn't seen you in a while. I didn't know what to say. Mrs. Patterson barely knew me. Maria continued, I brought some groceries. May I come in? I promise I won't stay long. I stepped aside.
She placed the groceries on my kitchen counter, then looked around. The sink was full of dishes. Mail was piled on the table. The room smelled stale. She didn't comment. She just asked, Mr. Chen, when did you last have a hot meal? I couldn't remember. She rolled up her sleeves. I'm making you soup. Sit down. I wanted to protest, but I was too tired. I sat. She moved through my kitchen like she belonged there. She washed dishes, she chopped vegetables, she hummed quietly. The smell of cooking filled the house. It had been so long. When the soup was ready, she placed a bowl in front of me. Eat, she said gently. I ate. The warmth spread through me. I realized I was crying. Maria sat across from me. She didn't ask why I was crying. She just waited. Finally, I said, My children don't visit me. She nodded. That must hurt very much. I raised them. I gave them everything. And now? Now you feel invisible, she finished. I looked at her. Yes. She reached across the table and held my hand. You're not invisible to me, Mr. Chen, and you won't be invisible to our community. That was the beginning. Maria came twice a week. Sometimes she brought groceries. Sometimes she just sat and talked. She told me about her life, her struggles,
her hopes. She listened to mine. She introduced me to Community Connections. It was a group of volunteers who supported isolated seniors. They organized weekly gatherings at the community center.
I was reluctant at first, but Maria was persistent. The first gathering, I sat in the corner. There were about 20 seniors there. Some played cards, some did crafts, some just talked.
An elderly man approached me. His name was Frank. He was 83, a retired postal worker. "First time?" he asked. I nodded. "Me too, 6 months ago," he said. "My daughter put me in a nursing home. Said she was too busy. I hated it. Felt like a warehouse. Then Maria found me, brought me here. And now?" He smiled. "Now I have friends. Now I matter." Over the weeks, I met others. Helen, whose son stopped visiting after she refused to move into assisted living. James, whose family fought over his house while he was still living in it. Patricia, whose daughter took control of her finances and gave her an allowance.
We were the forgotten ones, the inconvenient parents, the reminders of mortality that busy children didn't want to face. But here, we saw each other.
Frank taught me to play chess. Helen invited me to her book club. James and I started a small garden behind the community center. Maria organized a skills sharing program. I began tutoring math to struggling high school students twice a week, kids who needed help but couldn't afford private tutors. One student, a boy named Marcus, reminded me why I became a teacher. He struggled with algebra, but he worked hard. When he finally understood quadratic equations, his face lit up. "Mr. Chen, you make it make sense," he said. I hadn't felt needed in so long. Spring came. The garden bloomed. Tomatoes, lettuce, herbs. James and I would spend hours there, talking about everything and nothing. One afternoon, he said, "You know what I learned, Robert? Our children's love is complicated. They do love us, but they're scared of us too." Scared? Scared of what we represent. Aging, dependency, death. They don't reject us. They reject their own future. I thought about that. It didn't excuse their absence, but it helped me understand it.
In May, I received a call. It was Daniel. "Dad, I'm coming to visit this weekend." My heart jumped. Then I remembered all the times he said he would come and didn't. "Daniel, you don't have to." "Dad, I want to. I need to. I've been a terrible son."
That Saturday, he arrived. He looked older, tired. We sat in the living room, the same room where I had wept alone months before. He looked around. "The house looks good, Dad. Are you doing okay?" I told him everything. The fall, the hospital, the loneliness, the community that saved me. He cried. My son, this successful cardiologist who saves lives, cried. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I got so caught up in my life, I forgot about yours. Mom would be ashamed of me." I took his hand. "Your mother would forgive you, and so do I. I don't deserve it. Forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to move forward." He stayed the whole weekend. He met my friends. He helped in the garden. He saw that I had built a new life, one that didn't center on waiting for him. Before he left, he said, "I'll do better, Dad. I promise. And I'll talk to Sarah." I believed him, not because promises are easy, but because I saw genuine remorse. Sarah called a week later. We talked for an hour.
really talked. She said she felt guilty every day, but didn't know how to fix it.
I told her the same thing I told Daniel. Start now. Start small. Just don't disappear.
They both visit now. Not as often as I might like, but more than before. And when they can't visit, they call. Real calls, not rushed ones.
But here's what I learned. I don't need them to survive anymore. I have Frank and Helen and James. I have Maria and the community. I have Marcus and the other students who need me. I have a purpose again. My children's love is a gift, not my life support.
Last week, the community center organized a celebration for seniors. They called it Stories of Resilience.
They asked me to speak. I stood in front of 50 people and I said, I want to tell you about the year I disappeared and the community that made me visible again.
I told my story. When I finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room.
A young woman approached me afterward. My father lives alone, she said, tears streaming down her face.
I'm too busy. I keep promising to visit. Your story. I'm calling him tonight. Maybe that's the point of pain. Not just to survive it, but to transform it into something that helps others.
My name is Robert Chen. I am 78 years old. I was neglected, forgotten, invisible.
But I am visible now. Not because my children finally saw me, but because I learned to see myself.
And because a community of strangers became the family I needed.
If you know an elderly person who is alone, reach out. One phone call. One visit. One moment of your time. It might save a life. It saved mine.